Simone Walsh. The accent is from Australia. 22 years ago, though, we took ourselves to London for 8 years. And 12 years ago, my husband came home from work one day and said, "Would you like to move to America?" And so our journey around the world has certainly been varied, and we're very, very fortunate to have done that. I want to talk today about my leadership journey in a similar way to Dion in terms of interspersing how my career has taken me around the world, what I've certainly learned from it, and what I can hopefully impart to others, those that are at earlier stages of their careers that may be watching this later. I am also a very passionate advocate of being a chartered accountant. I took the time to qualify twice. Wasn't really asked to do it the second time, I had to. So I became a chartered accountant in Australia in a typical way that many of you would have. I was very fortunate. I came out of university and went into Ernst & Young's graduate program. I took the audit path. Again, I think, and I can still, even though I'm tax now, I cannot suggest strongly enough taking a turn through the audit world. You really get the basics of how companies run. You're thrown into all sorts of things. We have a new bunch of interns now, and I'm back on the tax side of BDO. But I startle them when I tell them I used to add up and make sure financial statements actually were correct. So we are all very fortunate. We have benefited certainly from advances in technology and advances in the way that the world works, and I think we're all better off for that. I don't think we've worked out then how we take that next step, and we're going to talk a lot about AI and obviously the revolution in both the profession, the challenges that we have in terms of recruiting, and we'll get to that. But going all the way back to the beginning, I think Dion referenced as well, it's really important to seek out mentors and also then later in your career give back. Some of the most rewarding work I do at the moment is actually watching and helping others develop. But I know that when I started, I had a partner that said, create a busy life for yourself. And what he meant by that was, we were early days, we were all fresh out of school, very exciting, 40 of us, and we all thought we were pretty clever. It was proved otherwise many, many times over at my career, certainly. But we got in there and did our qualification. And I think that that's something to recommend to people. This may not seem exactly like leadership right now, but if you step up and get things done as soon as you can get things done, I found that hugely helpful. I encourage all our team members now that are going through qualifications, a CPA here, certainly chartered accountants if you've come from somewhere else, to really get that done sort of first. And that leads you to be able to do more at work. So if you think about leadership, again, particularly even if you're in a more junior stage of your career, like I was when I was coming up in Australia, I always put my hand up to do more. And you will see as you make that transition early in your career, you're very technical, you'll be rewarded and promoted because of those technical skills. You need to develop further, and you need to be encouraged to see that that technical competence is only actually going to take you so far. We have now, I'm interestingly back in professional services after 25 years of doing something very different, being a VP of tax and head of tax and a CFO. So I do bring a unique perspective coming back into professional services. But whether you're in professional services or you're actually in business, the same applies. And so one of those hardest step-ups in anyone's career journey is going from that technical expertise into being a manager. And I explain how I see being a manager to team members and others in terms of having 3 steps. I think that the first is that you want to be able to self-manage. So do people know that you'll just do the work as it's asked, and you'll come and tell me, and you'll tell me if you can't do the work, and that will be fine too. But being open to knowing that you're self-managing, your work is in a good place, your life is in a good place. I think the reference Dion made also to your family, where you are at every age and stage. I reference, what is it that you're doing? Are you trying to do too much? Are you trying to do an exam and at the same time there's something going on with family? or you really want to get to disco golf at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't know that was a thing until I had someone that said that was really important to them. And so it's weighing all of that up at every sort of age and stage. But I think if you're self-managing, then people will come to you and people will sort of seek you out. The second piece I then talk to in terms of looking at management is then, can you project manage? Can you go and run something else? And can I give you something, and can you draw other people in? And I think a lot of the time, leadership is looked at through the lens of a hierarchy, there's established roles, well, we know someone has a title, therefore there's a leader. I like to think everyone can be a leader and you can lead, and it does not matter. I mean, hierarchies exist for a reason in organisations, they just do. I shouldn't treat people differently because of it, but they exist. And I think that moving into that sort of project management piece and allowing people to see that you can actually run something and influence without authority. That's a real skill to say, irrespective of my title, I'm going to run a cross-functional project, I'm going to pull people in, I'm going to chase a partner down to do a review because that's what's really holding things up. And I think that's really helpful. And then the third most difficult piece is, can you manage people? And that's really the tricky one, because I think, again, certainly speaking in professional services, and the same happens in industry, you'll have someone that's technically competent and bright and really able to go, great, go and manage a team. And we didn't give them any tools whatsoever to manage a team. And that's really hard. I think one of my first leadership lessons I was working in the United Kingdom, and I had a fabulous boss. Something I'll say now before I forget, have a great boss. Have a great boss. It's the single thing at any point in your career. If you don't have a great boss and it doesn't work, change that. Because I think, again, that will help you thrive, definitely. We had a fantastic leader, Sarah led the tax function at Sony for more than 20 years, and she was brilliant. So I had a team. I had a team from different countries. I clearly was not from England, as many of us were also not from England. But I had 2 managers, and I was treating them exactly the same way. And I couldn't work out, because I had a really good relationship with one, and I had a terrible relationship with the other. And I sat down with my boss just to talk about that. And it really came about to, Dean referenced before, how do you work? Are you collaborative? Are you authoritative? How do people want to be treated? So I think the self-awareness through your career as well about how you like to work, and then the recognition of how others like to work, is also really important. I had one of my managers that really liked a lot of feedback and wanted to check that I was doing things, and I was checking all the time. And I was doing the same thing to another manager, and it was driving him spare because he thought I didn't trust him, and he said, like, I've got this. And so we sat down and had that conversation. So I think that's another point to sort of make. Trust your instinct. You know when things aren't quite feeling right or could be better. And I think we are kind in our business, I would say, over the scope of my career, or certainly I sought out working in organisations where we are certainly kinder. But you can have those open conversations. If you feel something's not quite great or it could be better, seek out ways to do that. And that might not necessarily be with that person. It's seeking that guidance. I am very fortunate. The organisation I'm in at the moment, BDO, is clearly it's national, global. I was on a video call yesterday, and we made reference to some of the initiatives firm-wide that were going on, and I was able to message someone to say, could you refer me to that person, and can I seek them out? And they put half an hour on the calendar for tomorrow. And so, again, take those opportunities. When you see that there's an expert or you think someone knows something that could be helpful, please do that. So that's the sort of 3 tenets of managers and management that I sort of talk to all the time in terms of self-management, project management, people management. Then you look like a manager. And managing and leading are obviously very different, but to move on from that, I think that if you want to continue to progress your career, I've seen very few careers that just go straight up like that. Mine certainly went this way, that way, went down that way, back up again. You need to be open to all of that. But I think that encapsulating sort of circle of who you want to be and how you represent yourself, seeking out those other opportunities in terms of not just to the work you are doing in the organisation, getting involved. And I would say also putting your hand up. So always saying yes. Those open questions, how can I help? I was given good advice years ago where I had a leader that said it would be helpful for me if you swung by at the end of every day and just said, hey, what else do you need? I said, no problem. And I've done that ever since, everywhere I've been. I also tell people it would be really helpful if you could do that for me as well. And so I think keeping that communication going, understanding if you are in a collaborative environment and that's how you like to work, that's how you'll win, is really just keeping that eye out. And I think the communication point also is critical there as well. So again, everyone's got heads down, busy. You assume sometimes people know what you're doing. They don't. They don't actually. I had a great leader once where I came in and started the conversation here, and she said, could you go back here? I look at this every 3 months, you look at it every day. I appreciate that. So just be aware of communication and communication style, and have those open conversations when you think things aren't sort of going the same way. Jumping across to the US, we moved over here 12 years ago and had a fantastic experience. I think in a similar way, we moved over here with a view to maybe staying 3 years and seeing a bit more of the country and travelling. And I had someone in kindergarten and I just went to his high school graduation. So life will take you like that. I think be open to those experiences. And I think in a similar way to what Dion referenced, sometimes what you think will happen will not, or often what you think will happen will not. I think coming back to the leadership point is seeking out those opportunities that are going to work for you. Find your fit is what I tell a lot of people. So I think where you can thrive is that, are you personally engaged? When I talk about goals with people, I think it's really important and relevant to the leadership point. I say from a work perspective, we find this happy medium where people can trust me and say, well, what are your goals? And what are your personal goals? And we're a for-profit business, so we have business goals. But when we can align that with the individual and then also the organisation, you will thrive. And I think seek that out. So I think if you seek that out, seek out the people that you can see you would like to work in a similar way or have opportunities to work with at every age and stage. So I'll finish and hand off to Shalene, just saying, say yes, take the opportunity and be open, and great things will come.